sometimes I try to imagine what it might be like for new arrivals on planet Earth. And we've got so much, we have so many symbols out there, and they mean different things to different people depending upon what, country you're from or what tradition you're steeped in. For instance, I've got a symbol around my neck that to some people would mean Mother Maiden Crone, and to other people would be Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Others might see it as yet, something else. And it doesn't really matter to me how people want to envision or view things, just as long as they're taking time to sit with their thoughts and not necessarily take things, so literally. We're moving at such an incredibly fast pace, and that's very difficult for most people to move at a fast pace. I mean, we're probably, our technology, is so much more intense and thrashing forward, and it's frightening to a lot of people. And so as people become frightened, and they're seeking power, there is this tendency that we have, and we've always had it, to want to, remain in control. And some people will seek ways to, seize power, and they will hide information. And we think that this is something new, but my God, it's been going on since time immemorial. When a new civilization or a new thought stream comes in, they want to destroy what, preceded them so that they can take the reins. Every civilization has a story, and many of those stories get wiped out and rewritten. Some of them, though, most of them are, in fact, very much in agreement on some really major themes. And even though names and dates might shift, the themes are pretty much there for everyone to see. And one of the big themes when you're dissecting Eastern and Western thought streams is that nearly everything begins with the one. And it rather rapidly advances to a duad, and then boom, you're at 3. So the Olympians had Zeus, Poseidon, Pluto, god of the end. So you had heaven, water, underworld. The Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they have a Father, Son, Holy Ghost type setup. Pagans and Gnostics and pluralists have oftentimes a father, child, and a mother, or in the case of the Gnostics, Sophia. Platonism, the one, that which exists, and from which springs the mind and then the soul emanation. And this is what provides the basis for all of reality or materiality. Androgynes, hermaphrodites, or bisexuals were very popular in many ancient religious belief systems, even though most Westerners, they don't recognize that possibility. But it was very likely that human form prior to our, sex binary that we have now was an androgyne. And in fact, even in the Abrahamic tradition, Genesis 5:2 says as much. I mean, all you have to sit down, if you're a literalist and you sit down, and most people who are taking that book word for word are very much literalist, fundamentalist, and but just read it. It's very clear. Genesis 5:2. And so you've got Mother Maiden Crone for your Wiccans. You've got the Greeks had Hecate, Persephone, Selene. Diana was a triple goddess. So it's on and on and on. And just getting back to that androgyne theory, though, if there are those that think that the monad, like the The one is an androgyne, an indefinable being, unisex, sort of like electromagnetism, a swirling correlative force. You think about the yin-yang symbol, when you're going in that direction, or atomic potentiality. So it could be 1 + 1 or is 2 and then 3, as if there are 2 ones, maybe one and the reflection of itself. So these are things, these are mysteries. And I have so many questions and always new ones popping up, and it leads me to endless sources, some of which are, on this channel. And I like to compare and contrast viewpoints. And as my experience grows, my thoughts and feelings and, they really expand in proportion. And that's been true, gosh, since I was a youngster. And the phrase milk for babes and, meat for men takes on a much deeper meaning. It's much more personal meaning. I've got some notes here. I want to try to stay on track, which I have a hard time with. What I know is that throughout history, the triangle, that I referred to earlier, it's been associated with creativity and creation. And this fact it's universally acknowledged regardless of one's belief system. It's absolute. You can't dispute it. You're foolish to do so. The universe itself is an embodiment of the triangle, starting from 1 and moving toward 2 and 3, representing division, combination, leading to the creation of something entirely new. So it would be, mother, father, child, the combination of the two, which is then able to go out and create something entirely new from another mother, father, child. Always, though, things are going back to a single source. In any case, the cyclical process has the potential to continue to infinity in countless variations. So in non-dual thought schools like Advaita Vedanta, for instance, the many always returns to the one. You don't have this separation consciousness that we see in, for instance, Christianity, where you or Gnosticism, which is an offshoot, where you have good versus evil, God versus Satan, the opposer, as if they're two separate beings going to two separate places, taking their followers one way, even though this God, the good God over here created them, going to let them go because they didn't choose to go that way. So they're going to suffer eternally. So that doesn't happen, in actually most religions. There's always like this cycle of rebirth or transmigration, and whether the soul is looking to refine itself, grow itself, or learn, or be the experience of God. There's, who knows really? Honestly, who knows? We come up with theories. These are all theories. Because each of us are here doing this cycle. And so we're really just trying to make the best of it, trying to figure it out, trying to understand, what those geometric patterns on Hindu and Buddhist mandalas, what do they mean? So geometry in all its forms, it speaks to us. Our ancient ancestors believed that the gods created the universe using geometric patterns. They said it again and again in their art and their writings. The great philosopher Plutarch stated that Plato frequently referred to the fact that God geometrizes reality. So the use of geometric patterns to explain the relationship between the material world and divinity is prevalent really in all major wisdom traditions. And actually it's in most of the minor ones too. It's just there. It's just there in everything. These applications can be seen in Feng Shui, the golden ratio, magic circles, mandalas, as I mentioned earlier, harmony of the spheres. Walter Russell talks about that in great length. Numerology, astrology. I mean, if anything speaks to us about the cycles that we're in, you know, and the shapes, my gosh, you know, if you look at the rotations and the shapes that the movements of the planet, the cycles of the planet, they're great cycles. There's medium cycles, there's smaller cycles, the you know, moon cycle happening every 30 days. And you've got some of these cycles that are happening every 248 years. And you've got mentioned that we're on a, you know, constant reset. The Vedic texts tell us that we've got, you know, 24,000 year cycles. And those cycles, interestingly enough, agree with many of the changes that we see in Earth. So we can go back now in those millions and millions of years, and we can see some of these major cycles that are planetary cycles and how they reveal themselves in the Earth's crust and just the geo formations that exist. Science is there. It's coming in, and it would be so fabulous and so wonderful if more people, and I know a lot of people will say this, if science was more willing to use the metaphysics of ancient wisdom traditions and not poo-poo them, you know, as something that is not useful, because there are a lot of secrets. There's a lot of mysteries that can unfold and help reveal and take us deeper in our scientific understanding. So at any rate, the foundation of our reality is rooted in the concept of one. And while there may be differing opinions on the true nature of the one, enlightened individuals have truly managed to avoid narrow-mindedness, and the ones that have overcome their prejudices and fundamentalisms and fears can and will agree that we all originate from the same source. Even if we were influenced, and this is, you know, this is a whole nother level, but even if our human DNA was influenced by beings of extraterrestrial origin, those beings came from the same source. They might not have much in common with us at this point. In fact, they may have taken on a very different state of being. And go here with me for just a minute. Here on Earth, and we nearly always have, we've got the Godhead, you know, whether it's Brahman, Vishnu, Shiva, right? Or God, Son, Holy Spirit, we've got that being, and then there's this opposer force. In anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner, the fellow that's founded the Waldorf schools and did, I mean, just so much amazing work. He is a prolific writer. He had a structure that was based on very much the Zoroastrian it was Luciferic. For him, it was Christ. For Steiner, it was Christ. And then Ahriman, who he was quite confident is coming into play now with the scientific and the AI. So he was predicting this about 100 years ago, that Ahriman is rushing in and literally going to take an incarnation. So whether or not you believe that, beside the point that I'm trying to make is there were 3 levels, very oftentimes 3 levels in a lot of belief systems, where if you were going to look at the Luciferic level, or Lucifer, and you were able to have an understanding that, okay, well, Lucifer may exist and Lucifer may be the light bringer, but I'm not viewing Lucifer as necessarily this thing that I can't talk about and I'm so afraid because, it's in the Bible and he tempted Christ. And let's just look at it as allegory. And we might see Lucifer as that solar plexus chakra, the light bringer, the will, the passion, the desire, the drive, and seen through that lens, Lucifer's not necessarily one-sided. Now, if you see through the lens of passion out of control, just my will, all ego, then we get the Lucifer that, is a more familiar character. But everything, if you were willing to divide it and say, well, it could have a good quality, it could have a positive force, like, a hammer could drive a nail, or a hammer could be used as a destructive tool. So thus could your solar plexus chakra. So that desire, that will, that passion, good or bad, depends on how you use a thing. And Ahriman being a character or a concept that is logic, that is all logic, cold, hard logic, no compassion, nothing. I'm going forward, marching forward. And in a way it is a type of a will, but it's more of, it's just devoid of humanity. Just doesn't care. Does not care. So existence for its own sake, constantly just sort of out there spinning to create more of itself. And then you look at that Christ consciousness, and that really is the interesting thing that is something humanity, I think, has above. I mean, we have developed that. I don't know. I think we probably always had, I'm sure we always had maternal and paternal instincts. We wouldn't have gotten as far as we have had we not that, and tribalism. But we've transcended, if you will. We've even gone beyond that, and so we understand that importance of the compassion and that universal oneness. So that Christ consciousness, or in Krishna consciousness and Buddha consciousness, has brought us into that space. But we're still all three. We're still that driving logic, and we're still that will. We'll not be divorced from that in this form. No, I don't think we should try to be divorced from it in the form. And I think it might be of great interest to see what we're able to do when we take the passion and the heart and the great logical mind and put them to use for ourselves and for one another. I don't think this is a negative thing, and I'm not afraid of my solar plexus or my mind or my heart. I welcome all of those. So as concepts, Lucifer, Ahriman, and all, I don't see them in the same way that literalists see them. I take it out there into the abstract and conceptual. Coming back to original source, the crux of the matter is that we do come from the same source, and we do come from the same God or gods, or whatever way you want to know it, regardless of the positive or negative qualities. And we're all excuse me, I'm going to move some notes around. I'm out here, got them on a music stand. We're all the progeny of the one. And those who cling to this divisive us versus them mentality, and they refuse to transcend the limitations of dualism. They're not going to do it. They are separatists through and through. They have a separatist consciousness, whether it is it's racial or religiously oriented or xenophobic or whatever the situation is. they're not going to stray from it. There's not much you can do. You know, that's how they're going to live out their life, and they've chosen that. That's their right to make those decisions. So, you know, right now humanity is on the cusp of a profound transformation, and it really is akin to a rebirth or a metaphysical resurrection, and the realization. It's both physical and psychological, and it's going to render Earth's socio-political powers impotent in their attempt to divide and factionalize us. And it's up to us to choose whether we wish to, you know, if we wish to dominate others, or if we're going to collaborate and create something entirely new. You know, as co-creators, we have an opportunity to merge our unique creative essences, like the one and the two, to make the third. And we don't have to sacrifice our individuality. We can channel our essences into birthing in a new world and a new human, really, equipped with sort of, you know, this triadic individuality. And humanity, once it's leveled up, it will maintain its own identity. It's possible to maintain your own identity and allow others to do the same thing. You don't have to insist. You don't have to try to change them. It is a joy. It's not this wild experience that we're having now. This anarchic, crazy, chaotic, trying to invent words to mask mental illness and we're not getting to the crux of what's going on inside of us. We're just trying to insist that others, you know, agree with our reality, and that doesn't change anything. It's just adding to division. But, you know, I think some of that is by design. Back to the point though, once humanity levels up, we have the potential to really usher in, you know, a brighter world because of the contributions of the many. And so as we move towards a truer understanding of time, space, light, mathematics, well, actually mathematics and sound are going to play a huge role in the destiny of mankind. And I think that what's coming is going to surpass our wildest imaginations, even the most creative amongst us. I mean, we're really on the threshold of something new. And yeah, there is a cyclical quality to natures, but it won't be exactly the same as it was before. You're not ever capable of going back. You can't, as they say, step in the same stream twice. So it can be tempting. And I see this with the trads, they're the traditionalists, and the people who are wanting to go back. You know, they want to swan dive into inertia, in a sense. They want it to be like it was before, you know, and there are many wonderful things from before that we ought take with us, you know, and certainly the experiences that have helped us fortify ourselves and grow ourselves. I mean, we have to think about, you know, preserving those for future generations to look back on, but we can't go back, you know, we must go forward. So, you know, the triad of past, present, and future is accessible to varying degrees, but there's no returning to the womb. We can't go back up the birth canal. We're here in the now, and we're facing forward. Mind, body, spirit. So you've got that triad again, mind, body, spirit, is to be experienced. And let me grab my final note here, my dears, as I think about this. So in closing, what comes next? Given that time is cyclical and the themes And the themes are so vaguely understood, even though we've talked themes to death, and we can look across literature and we can see in our wisdom traditions, there's so many patterns that repeat themselves. And a side note, yesterday, my neighbor's father had gone to Kentucky and visited this place where they have the ark, and they reconstructed the ark. And he was so happy, and he was showing me this picture of this big, giant ark. And he just was so thrilled that he got to see that. And, you know, I don't know if a Noah character existed. I don't know if an ark ever existed. I don't know if Gilgamesh ever existed. But that's another arc story. There's so many arc stories out there, aren't there? Anyway, I sidetrack with that because this is part of the thing. We've got these stories, and we are sometimes incapable of not taking them literally. And I think we've got to get out of that. So, okay, maybe they literally did happen. I kind of think they probably didn't literally happen. I don't think there were multiple arcs being launched all over the planet, although they tell us that when Atlantis went down, they sent ships everywhere. So, you know, maybe there were ships launched from all over the place. In any case, here we are. You know, we've got these vaguely understood themes. What we can expect is the wheel will continue to turn. The wheel turns. The center remains the same. At least from our limited perspective, the center is unchanging. So the spokes of creation are constantly assembling themselves according to really their chemical nature. And I think it would probably be safe to say in the very beginning of this cycle, there was probably one, two, three. So water, oxygen, carbon. But I don't know. I'd have to talk to a scientist about that. If you have any information on periodic tables and which came first, enlighten me. I'd love to hear more. So here we are, you know, according to our chemical nature, and we're constantly in a process of change here, you know. So we're arranging ourselves. We will eventually return to the midpoint. We too are headed back to source, and there will be an alchemical rebirth, and we'll do it again, or so I think. You know, if I was leaving the planet and I had to write one line of advice for all new arrivals, my gosh, it would probably read, listen to your gut, use your head, and stay true to your heart. Good luck. That's it. Gut, head, and heart. The triad, the Holy Trinity. Well, that's mine. So please leave me your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you on all of this. And I appreciate you being here today. Love to you.